watching the 1963 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Hold on, you! It's ready to the rescue!
We will return in a moment to the Rough and Ready Show
Are we a dog and a cat? Of course we are.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Rough and Ready Show
Dangerous? Now he tells us.
on the 1963 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Howdy do, folks.
We will return in a moment to the Huckleberry Hound Show on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Huckleberry Hound Show
Yeah, Rustler again.
on the 1963 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Hi there, Boo-Boo. Little bear-type buddy.
We will return in a moment to the Yogi Bear Show
I just gotta get some food in my shrunken stomach.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Yogi Bear Show
Look, Boo. They're ready to put on a show.
on the 1963 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Top Cat on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Top Cat
The meeting will now start with the calling of the roll.
on the 1963 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Peter Potamus Show
Now we really must shove off. Come on, So-So.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Peter Potamus Show
Let's go first, miss.
And on.
on the 1966 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Space Ghost.
We will return in a moment to Space Ghost
Jason's in trouble on Jupiter.
I'll pick you up in 3 minutes.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Space Ghost
Boy, are we glad to see you.
on the 1966 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Nobody fools around with Frankenstein Jr.
We will return in a moment to Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossible.
The Impossibles are ready to do the impossible, Chief.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossible.
Junior, you did it again.
On the 1966 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Roadrunner Show. On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Roadrunner Show. On the 1966 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Bugs Bunny Show.
Doggone you, old mean wabbit.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Bugs Bunny Show.
What's up, Doc?
On the 1967 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
I'll put a stop to that.
We will return in a moment to Birdman and the Galaxy Trio. On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Birdman and the Galaxy Trio.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go!
On the 1967 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Moby Dick and Mighty Mightor. On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Moby Dick and Mighty Mightor. On the 1967 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Shazam.
Thanks, Shazam.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Shazam.
Well, 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 young master.
On the 1968 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
And away they go.
We will return in a moment to Wacky Races.
That sneaky shortcut put us way out in front. Right, McLean?
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Wacky Races. On the 1968 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
The banana split.
We will return in a moment to the Banana Splits.
I want a volunteer to step forward.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Banana Splits.
Let's get on with the club business.
On the 1968 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
It's clobbering time.
We'll return in a moment to Fantastic Four.
Must be destroyed. How many times have we heard that speech?
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Fantastic Four.
It's clobbering time.
On the 1968 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
There they are, Doc.
We'll return in a moment to the Herculoids.
I'll call Xandor.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Herculoids.
It sounds like trouble. Faster, Doc.
On the 1969 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
I'll get you, Penelope Pitstop.
We will return in a moment to the perils of Penelope Pitstop
Farewell forever, Penelope Pitstop.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the perils of Penelope Pitstop
What a pickle to be in.
on the 1969 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Flintstones on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Flintstones
Uh-oh, here they come.
on the 1970 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Dastardly and Muttley in their flying machine
Keep a sharp lookout for that pigeon, Muttley.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Dastardly and Muttley in their flying machine on the 1970 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We'll return in a moment to Where's Huddles
Get through, Huddles. Never stood a chance. Get
It's brains over brawn every time.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Where's Huddle?
Huddle is still going.
On the 1970 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Josie and the Pussycats are really hot today.
We will return in a moment to Josie and the Pussycats.
All right, group. The minute we stop, everybody out and we'll make a break for it.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Josie and the Pussycats.
Man, dig that swinging sound.
On the 1970 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Funky Phantom.
This thing is goes. What do you think I am?
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Funky Phantom.
I'll give him what for? What 5 even?
On the 1971 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Yabba dabba
We will return in a moment to Pebbles and Bam Bam.
Oh, Bam Bam, just leave everything to me.
Oh, boy. On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Back to Pebbles and Bam Bam.
I hate to say I told you so.
On the 1971 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
I got him.
We will return in a moment to Help! It's the Hair Bear Bunch.
Herr Barris has come up with another brilliant idea.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Help! It's the Hair Bear Bunch.
Here, you're all brains.
On the 1971 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Dad, Reese, over here!
We will return in a moment to the adventures of Johnny Quest.
We gotta do something, Hodge. They've got Dad and Reese.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Quest.
Jolly good show, Master Haji. Thank you very much, Johnny.
On the 1971 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. It's Yogi's Gang! We will return in a moment to Yogi's
We
Gang.
messed it up and we can clean it up.
Hooray! Let's do it.
On Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Yogi's Gang.
Last one there is a hungry bear.
On the 1973 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids reporting, sir.
We will return in a moment to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids.
After
from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kids
Sundance 1 reporting in, Mr. Socrates.
from the 1973 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
That's me.
We will return in a moment to Speed Buggy on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Speed Buggy on the 1973 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
The master detective who never slips up.
We will return in a moment to Inch High, Private Eye
Sure. The butler did it. How corny can you get?
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Inch High, Private Eye
I wouldn't leave here if I were you.
on the 1973 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Hong Kong Phooey
I don't know what I'm saying, but it sure sounds good.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Hong Kong Phooey
It's so nice to be recognized and loved.
on the 1974 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
What's going on?
We better find out.
We will return in a moment to the new Scooby-Doo movie
For the first time in a lifetime career of overeating, I think I'm getting a bellyache.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the new Scooby-Doo movie
I'm getting more confused every minute.
on the 1974 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the new Scooby-Doo movie
The amazing Shaggy, part man, part chicken.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Back to the new Scooby-Doo movie
Well, studies show I'm for that. Let's go.
on the 1974 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Valley of the Dinosaurs
I think we spotted a trail out of here.
Wow, fantastic, Dad.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Valley of the Dinosaurs
I'm not scared of that noisy lizard.
on the 1974 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to the Great Grape Ape Show
I know. I'm sorry.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to the Great Grape Ape Show
Ray, yep, that's me.
on the 1975 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. return in a moment to Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch
I'm gonna stop that wheelie if it's the last thing I do.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Wheelie and the Chopper Bunch on the 1975 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network. We will return in a moment to Devlin on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Devlin on the 1975 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.
I am the roughest, the toughest white shark ever.
We will return in a moment to Jabberjaw
Wowie, wow, wow, wow. That's my Jabber. He's a hero.
on Boomerang from Cartoon Network. Welcome back to Jabberjaw
Here's for me.
on the 1976 edition of Boomerang from Cartoon Network.